life of Abraham, there's a sad moment. Sarah dies. Yes. Let's read about it. Genesis 23 verse 1 and 2. We read, Sarah lived 127 years. The only woman, I think, in the Bible. We know how old she became. These were the years of the life of Sarah. So Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abram came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. So where are we? We are in Hebron. And Abram moved from Beersheba to Hebron. He had been there for quite a long time, and he had moved to Hebron. And he had been there before, building an altar. Genesis 13 verse 18, we read about it. Then Abraham moved his tent and went and dwelt by the terebinth trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built an altar there to the Lord. So that's the place where he worshipped the Lord. That's where he built an altar, so he returns there. And well, he used to have companions there, friends. Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre were his friends and his companions. And he, together with them, he went after the kings of the east to conquer them and to free Lot. And now he comes back there. We don't read about Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre anymore. The name Mamre is still there. And Hebron is an important place. Caleb conquers Hebron. He had seen the giants over there, and for more than 40 years later, when he has entered the land with all the people of Israel, he goes there to conquer Hebron. And also, it's a city of refuge. It's a city where for the priests, Caleb has to give it to the priests, and it's a city of refuge where you can flee if you killed somebody by accident. And David was crowned king over there, and was king over there for 7 years. So let's take a look again. Abram mourning for Sarah. It's so very logical. If Sarah dies, it's his wife, it's his companion, and Abram mourns and weeps. And it's so very logical to do. Jesus weeps when he is at the grave of Lazarus. And he weeps. The shortest verse in the Bible, Jesus wept. That's what he does. That's what we can do also. It is logical to mourn when a loved one dies. We have to say goodbye. Of course we know we will see each other again if we are both of us are believers. But it's logical to mourn. It's logical to weep, to be sad. The sadness is different from people who don't have hope. We don't grieve in the same way, because deep down we know there's a meeting again. There's a resurrection. We believe in the resurrection. That's what Abraham did as well. But this is a sad moment. He doesn't have much time to mourn at that moment because Sarah needs to be buried. How is he going to act? Well, let's read about it in a moment. But first of all, I think it's logical that he looked back on his life with his companion, with his mate. So looked back on Sarah's life. And it's important to see. It was his mate, his companion. They had gone through so many things together. The journey from Ur of the Chaldeans to Haran, and from Haran to Canaan, and different places in Canaan, and going to Egypt and back again. and all these other things they had lived through. The hope of having a son, which died almost because their body didn't allow it anymore. But then the power of the resurrection of the Lord made it possible for Sarah to have a son. So he must have looked back on it. That's logical. And she is an example. Peter says she's an example for all women, believing women. And what does he say about it? Let's read. In 1 Peter chapter 3, we read the following. Verse 3. Do not let your adornment be merely outward, arranging the hair, wearing gold, or putting on fine apparel. Rather, let it be the hidden person of the heart, something inside that's more valuable, with the incorruptible beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is very precious in the sight of God. God looks into the heart. He sees what's there. And that's the most important adornment you can have as a woman. For in this manner, in former times, the holy women who trusted in God also adorned themselves, being submissive to their husband, as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters you are if you do good and are not afraid with any terror. Sarah persevered. Sarah obeyed Abraham. Sarah gave an example to us, to all of us, to especially the women. It's very important to see that. And she's the mother of the promised son. That's, of course, what was the most important thing in her life and in the life of Abraham. And now when Sarah is 127 years and Isaac is 37 years, we don't read about him, by the way, in this chapter. Maybe he is somewhere else with the flock, and it takes time, of course, for him to be notified of the death of his mother. She is the mother of Isaac, the promised son. Very important. And then she is buried. Buried, looking forward to. But where? Let's read on. In Genesis 23, verse 3 and 4, we read, Then Abram stood up from before his dead and spoke to the sons of Het, saying, I am a foreigner and a visitor among you. Give me a property for a burial place among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to have his own burial place. And in Hebrews 11, we read the following. Let's read about it. Hebrews 11, we read in verse 13, These all died in faith, Sarah and Abraham and Isaac, etc., not having received the promises, not the land which was promised to them, but having seen them afar off, were assured of them, and praised them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth, as we read. For those who say such things declare plainly that they seek a homeland. And surely if they had called in mind that country from which they had come, Ur of Chaldeans, for instance, come out, they would have had opportunity to return. But now they desire a better, that is a heavenly country. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them, the city of Jerusalem. Abraham looked forward to the resurrection. to bury his own wife here in the land and have it for a property. And this is the cave where she was buried, and Abram and others. So the promise of the land was not received. He was a stranger. And in 1 Corinthians 15 we read something else important, I think, to note. Verse 42 we read, "So also is the resurrection of the dead. The body is sown in corruption. It is raised in incorruption. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. It's sown in weakness. It's raised in power. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body." So Abram could look forward to an incorruptible resurrection, as we can also look forward to. That's very important. That's how he acted. So let's take a look what happens next. He goes to these men and asks the following. "And the sons of Het answered Abram, saying to him, Hear us, my lord, you are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you this burial place, that you may bury your dead." Then Abram stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Het. And he spoke with them, saying, "If it is your wish that I bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and meet with Ephron, the son of Zohar, for me, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me at the full price, as property for a burial place among you." Now Ephron dwelt among the sons of Het, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abram in the presence of the sons of Het, all who entered at the gate of his city, Hebron, as it is called later, saying, "No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field and the cave that is in it. I give it to you in the presence of the sons of my people. I give it to you, bury your dead." Then Abram bowed himself down before the people of the land, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, "If you will give it, please hear me. I will give you money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there." And Ephron answered Abram, saying to him, "My lord, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead." And Abram listened to Ephron, and Abram weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Het, 400 shekels of silver, currency of the merchants. So the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field, and all the trees that were in the field, which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abram as a possession in the presence of the sons of Het, before all who went in at the gate of the city. So there it is. Have the second son of Canaan, and all the other Canaanites were there in the land still. And Abram would have to wait 400 years. Well, he couldn't wait for himself. But it would take for more than 400 years before the sins of the Amorites were grown to a full measure. And in Genesis 13, verse 14 and 15, we read the following. "And the Lord said to Abram, after Lot had separated from him, Lift your eyes up now and look from the place where you are, northward, southward, eastward and westward, for all the land which you see I give to you and your descendants forever." So actually it was Abram's. And after the Lord had said that to him, he moved to Hebron, the place where he had returned now. But he doesn't say it's actually mine, because the Lord promised it, but he buys the land. and he wanted to do it for the full price. He himself felt a stranger and a sojourner. That's what we read in Hebrews as well. But they say, you're a mighty prince, a prince of God. You could also translate. Because he is the one who has become rich and has become powerful. He has done mighty deeds, going after the kings of the East, for instance. And they know it, of course. Of course they know it. But he says, I'm just a stranger and a sojourner. I'm looking forward to something else. And then they say, nobody will refuse you. Just bury your dead. Okay, if that's true, then ask Ephron. Ask Ephron to give the cave of Machpelah, because that's the place where I want to bury my Sarah, my wife. He knew what he wanted. But Ephron said, I give the cave and the field to you. No, says Abraham, I want to pay the full price. The full price. Just as David will do later on with the field of Araunah. And the temple is built in that place. Abraham wants to pay the full price because then it's his property. And 400 shekel is 4 kilograms. It's not just a small amount. And we know from the records of the Hittites that it must have been about more than 100 acres. About 3 shekel for 1 acre. That was the normal price. So that was what it was worth. So it wasn't a small field, it was quite a large field. And the cave in it. And Abraham wants to pay the full price, so it's his property. It's not to be contested ever after. And also it's inheritable. So also Isaac and Jacob will own it and will be buried there. That's important. So let's read on. Abraham buries Sarah. In verse 19 we read, and after this Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave that is in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial place. Yes, that's where he can go in and bury his own wife. It's his own grave in the land that is promised to him, and he looks forward. Abraham, Isaac, Rebekah, and also Leah and Jacob, they are also buried over there. And why? Because he look forward to the resurrection. They wait for the resurrection. The New Jerusalem, that's what they look forward to. The new resurrection. Incorruptible. So that's how he sows the body of Sarah. That's what we can do as well. Looking forward, waiting for the resurrection that will take place soon. When the Lord returns and we will be taken up to him. Amen.